everyone, and welcome back to Frivolous Gravitas. With you here today, myself, Christopher Driver, and as always, Mr. Jordan Roy.
I'm only a little bit hyperactive today.
I don't even know what to say to that.
I was talking a lot there. I just kind of went.
Well, in keeping with what you were speaking about before, we were sort of talking a bit about like the fake impressions that people have and make. And I really want to kind of just distinguish outright that just some examples to say what we are and aren't considering as fake, just for clarity's sake. So like if somebody's in a group of people who have similar interests and this individual doesn't have those similar interests, I don't think it's fake for them to project in line with the group just to be social, right? So that's on one side of things.
Well, it's because like if I'm coming into a group that knows a lot about cars, I'm actually pretty terrible with vehicle knowledge. But my limited knowledge, like I can be like, oh wait, there's a lot of history with vehicles. I can maybe chime in with that, or I can plug in a bit with that,
or you can learn something. You can just
which is usually what happens.
Like, how does a carburetor work?
Keep thinking of Megan when she came to Megan's my wife. She came to the History Students Association meetings because, well, I was there. And she ends up like learning way too much about the Byzantine Empire. She keeps telling me, I know way more than I need to know about the Western Roman Empire, Jordan.
So in keeping with that, though, I want to sort of suggest that it's not fake to try and extend yourself beyond your own personal realm. I think that's really, really good for people's growth and development, never mind their social engagement, to stretch beyond their familiar grounds and sort of extend themselves and project themselves into things they wouldn't otherwise typically have done. I think that's actually good for people. And I wouldn't want to consider that as fake, just like I wouldn't consider makeup being fake, even though it is.
People saying like stay in your lane, but someone telling you to stay in your lane is itself a bad dance step. You're showing with that dance move, you're showing insecurity. Like an insecurity is like, oh, that guy's insecure. Maybe why is he insecure? And then you start thinking like, oh, maybe he's just a prick. And he knows it. The
other example that I would give then would be like, even for doing this podcast with you, I change the way I speak when I'm on camera or in front of people, and I change the way I speak when I'm on a microphone recording a rap album, and I change the way I speak when I'm presenting myself in front of like my clients or doing consulting work and stuff. And I've always been kind of torn with this because it feels disingenuous to have a change of dialect or behavior or self-censorship or having a subdued level of passion to not show my immaturity or my zealousness or my over enthusiasm. But on the same token, it's practically useful. Mm-hmm. So for the purposes of this channel, it's sort of an educational exploration of thought and a foray into the unknown. And we like to throw ideas back and forth that we don't necessarily agree with or believe in, but just for the sake of the discussion, to have something to ruminate.
Yeah, that was a thought experiment. Don't think that we actually believe in that.
No, but a lot of what we do is like when we did our relationships episode, neither of us are claiming to understand all of the ins and outs of all human interaction. Like, obviously not. What we're doing is we're trying to articulate the things that we think and feel about the subject so that the conversation can be had.
Yeah.
Because the conversation is the point, not the actual idea or the end or being right or wrong about it. But just the engagement is the purpose, and that's sort of the focus of our channel too, the Frivolous Gravitas. So in getting back to what we were saying about the whole fakeness, I think what we were trying to pinpoint is when a person doesn't have an interest, but they want to show they have the interest because they think it'll reflect kindly on them, on other people's perceptions of themselves. I think that's what's fake. So it's not like being in a group full of car mechanics and then showing some interest in car mechanics when you've never shown interest before. I don't think that's fake. But to go into a group and trying to brag about how much you're into cars just for the sake of their adulation, that would be fake. So It's not like wearing makeup to go out makes you fake, because if you just want to pretty yourself up, like, albeit all power to you, like, you're making the world a prettier place every time you go out. So what's the harm? You're just doing it to yourself. But when those people can't do things, like when they'll avoid a social engagement because they're out and about and they don't have makeup on already, or if they need food and they're putting off eating because they have to put on makeup before they go to the grocery store to buy food, like that type of thing is destructive. That there are points in time when your image and perception and your impressions actually don't matter whatsoever. And I think that often gets skewed with social media and stuff because
like with a lot of this, it comes down to self-awareness and like everything. If you know you're putting something off, and if you don't eat right now, there's times in my life where if I don't eat right now, to your example, because your example does sound a bit weak, but it's not, because if I don't eat right now, sometimes I'm going to be a mess for the rest of the day. If I don't get enough water by a certain time, I'm going to be a mess for the rest of the day. And then if I need to do something responsible the rest of the day, like I need to have that food now, like 6 hours before that. So it isn't just like you're going to starve if you don't eat, or maybe you're not eating enough and you do need to eat more because anyway, what happens is that self-awareness that one needs to cultivate. Why am I doing this stuff? Why am I putting on makeup to go to Safeway at 11 p.m.? That's a very good question. And it would tell you a lot about yourself. Why do for me, one of the things I used to do to change myself was when I was working serving tables, I would have a serving tables voice and I didn't notice it. And I'd come back from work and I'd be like,
hello, sweetheart.
Hey, how's it going? That's a nice thing you got there. Like, Jordan, that's I would turn it on just as a joke sometimes. Yeah. And because like in the wrong situation, it's funny because, you get that.
But the thing is, that's like something all people do. Like if you look at black and white movies and you watch the people speak and interact in a black and white movie, they're always talking like this. See, but you wouldn't think that people actually talk like that back in the day. Like,
well, it's like
they had the radio voice.
We make fun of Italians for being like, and we just like, then we went to Italy and it's just like, oh, that's real. That is absolutely 100% real. And well, that's how you learn about how other people do their dance. And that's one of the fascinating things about traveling too. And
culture.
Yeah.
Like especially about culture, because it's everything, it exudes from them in all of their behaviors and mannerisms and idioms. Like every part of their body in essence just reeks of their culture. And we all do that.
This is why we have cultural appropriation, because you travel to somewhere and then you're like, you see a mannerism, you see someone doing their dance, you see some aspect of aesthetic or food or something, and you just go, oh, that's good. These guys nailed something. I love it. I've never seen it before. It's novel. It's cool. It's like, why do you think we have so much Japanese stuff like as a part of like Canadian culture? For the past 100 years, actually, Japanese stuff was really popular in the late 19th century. Like everyone was like, I'm going to go to Japan because that's where you study art. Like Van Gogh was like, and Manet and Monet were all like, Japanese art's the thing because it's just so cool and different. They loved it. There's something about it that was so different and they could learn something from it. And so you saw a lot of Japanese art actually having putting an impression on the Impressionist movement. So this sharing of culture is something that happens as well, because we're dancing with a bunch of other dances too. And I think that when we like something, we'll do it. And we're always trying something new. And I think I'm going to move the conversation forward. When you go online, are you able to be genuine? Because it's, you go on Facebook.
I think some people can, but I think it's people's priorities that skew things. It's when they're so nervous about how they're going to be seen, then you can't possibly act normal. It's like being on camera, knowing you're on camera, you're always going to be different. But me being different on a podcast camera is very different from me being different on a security camera. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm here ready to present some ideas and thoughts, and I want to do it in a way that's succinct and clear to people. So I'm going to try not to swear as much as I normally would in just my everyday pattern of speech.
I try to. Oh my God, do I try?
Oh Lord, do I try?
You can tell when I'm getting very passionate about something when I just swear and I'm just like, dang it, I did it. See?
Yeah, and recognizing that other people don't like it too. When I'm in the company of people who don't like to hear it, I try and censor myself. But again, that's not a projection of anything that's fake. What it is just like you said, self-aware. So social media and the online presence, I think, is fantastic for people who want to promote some type of creative work or their professional work or product or keep in touch with family and all that. But when you go on social media to show people how smart you are, you know what I mean? In promoting conspiracy theories, or to show them how woke you are and promoting like social awareness, but you do nothing in your regular day life to acknowledge or stay aware of problems. And we mentioned this before with like mental health issues and people who are bipolar, right? You'll have the same woke people saying, hey, there's mental health issues out there and people aren't getting help for it. Those same people will go on Facebook and rail about somebody who was just a little bit rude to them that morning.
Yeah.
Not recognizing that person might have been bipolar, because like they're going out there pushing the self-awareness of one thing, and then they're acting unself-aware or self-unaware.
Yeah, well, lack of self-awareness can in itself be a bit paradoxical. It's just like, I'm self-aware. Well,
and I think that is like the thing that makes social media complicated. It's that self-awareness component, because people aren't even aware when they're not being self-aware while they're promoting their self-awareness.
Yes, because one thing I do, I use my social media literally just I literally put myself on Facebook. First of all, it was a joke. I made a joke name, which was like an aberration of my actual name. And then I made it real. And I put some things on there. I would say something here and there. And I look back on them going like, that's cringy. And it's like the cringe is deep in my old posts. And I go, but now I'm pretty much all I post, like I've never put my face on there. And like I've never put my face on there. Other people have. And all I pretty much post now are these episodes. So it's literally just a vehicle to show, hey, look, I did something, watch it or don't, I don't care. And that's pretty much all I'm doing. There's a picture I took of a mountain.
Imagine if you did all your reading on Facebook rather than through books. If all the reading you did was stuff that was posted on Facebook, that's a lot of people.
You're seeing the optics that a corporation company optics are very different from people optics, because they're trying to show you something towards an end. Now, a person will show you something so that they, don't get beaten up in class, or they'll show you something like there's an end, but it's a very personal end. And oftentimes it's just kind of like, I just want to have some fun, so I'm just going to be chill, or I'm just going to do this. So, and oftentimes a person doesn't know what they want. They're just kind of going with the flow, which is usually not a bad thing. And so
it's the motivation of the company that we need to keep in focus.
Yeah. What do they want? And so a lot of times a company will be very self-aware, but a lot of times they won't be. So
I think companies are, because companies have marketing and data analysts and stuff, right? It's like with Facebook right now, there's a whistleblower who was like part of Facebook that was saying that Facebook, the company, was downplaying the severity of the mental health damages that the Instagram app that they own could be causing young girls based on body images and anxiety disorders and the prevalence of depression these days, et cetera, et cetera. But Facebook had the information and they buried it because obviously it wasn't helpful or conducive to their profit model. And their profit model is literally just to keep as many people using their platform as long as possible,
as highly connected as possible. Like,
because they do two things. They sell your data, so they need you producing data on their platform. And the other thing is they sell advertisements based on your data, so they need people on the platform to be advertised to in order to sell ads to companies who want their advertising done.
Right.
So the issue with that is not acknowledging the motivations of the company itself for the platform, whether it's Facebook or MySpace or Twitter or whatever, TikTok. All of that isn't just branding for individuals. They're picking and choosing which posts that people make to show other people as well, to fan the flames so that they keep people on their platform. So as an example, if somebody writes 3 posts and one is, oh, my roses are beautiful this year. 2 is, oh, I made this new recipe. And 3 is, there's a black person next door who's always making noise. Facebook will choose the one that's incendiary so that your friends and your family and everybody on your wall respond and get angry and everybody's tensions flare because that keeps everybody on the platform longer. So their model is so Discord.
Well, isn't what she says is that they actually did social experiments where they picked like people at random and made their like certain people's feeds happy and certain people's feeds sad and saw what happened. And like they said, okay, yeah, we have a lot of control here. Well, what can we do with that control? Well, we can make a lot of money with that control. But I think it's also telling how a lot of the people who run these programs, literal computer programs on your browser, are not letting their kids use them. And they're like doing what people like Jonathan Haidt are trying to tell parents to do with their children, limiting their screen time, especially before bed, limiting their access to certain social media, and teaching their kids about it. And the people owning these platforms are doing this, but that should be telling in itself that this is something that we should be aware of. And so what happens is, to keep with the thing, is that they try and present themselves as if this isn't happening. No, Facebook is just a place to, talk with your friends, to meet up with your people. And generally, like, that's the other 25% of what I use it for, is to make sure that like I'm in contact with
aunts and uncles you never see, and
like everyone over 60. So like that's pretty much all I do. My sister uses it to post her ads for like her grooming business, which is apparently really good. If you're in Winnipeg, check her out. But plug. But
sort of my point is that it's more the problem with the people's interpretations of what Facebook's presenting them. It's more the fact that they're accepting of what Facebook puts in front of their faces to read.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. It's the fact that people aren't discerning the difference between a company's motivation and like their altruistic, here's a free platform for humanity to get closer in touch to their roots and stuff. Like, that's not what Facebook cares about. They don't care about my family.
No,
or me connecting with my family.
This is a lie. They shouldn't, because it's ingenuine. It's like that's the same thing as what happens when TD Bank, like coats all their banks in the pride flag twice every year. And it's like, is it pride? And it's like, well, it doesn't matter. They're a bank. Like,
it has nothing to do with it.
Has nothing to do. They know, and this is the thing, it's almost insulting, is because they know that if they cover their banks in this pride flag, that they're going to make money, because they're going to look, not like a bank, it's just business. I'm here for the money. Which is it's also not a accurate depiction of what a bank is, because they're doing something very specific. And so what they want you to see is, yay, we're proud too. Look at us being all progressive. We're part of the party. Look at us. Hello, fellow children. And so this is what comes across. But
meanwhile, they're laundering money for drug dealers during an opioid epidemic.
Yeah. And it's just like they're a bank. Like, it's just TD Bank. And why do companies keep doing this? And we see this all over the place. Like, a company will pick a side and then put up something because they're literally going with what will get them the most societal acceptance at that moment. So if it happens to be that, pride stuff is in the kind of the Walter Lippmann sort of public opinion way, they're going to put it up. Whatever follows, whatever public opinion sways, the bank will show. And that's one thing that for some reason we haven't gotten about companies, is that they have one thing that they're trying to do. And if they're a repair bay, they're going to repair cars. If they are a bank, they're going to do banking stuff. they're going to hold money and try and get more customers, and hopefully people won't get, because the more customers they have, the more they can work with the capital under their house. If they're 7-Eleven, they want people to come in and buy chips. Like, that's it. And everything else is geared towards that. But if the 7-Eleven starts putting pride flags up, it's like, no, selling chips isn't as important as the woke narrative. This is what's important. And how can you believe them when what they're supposed to be doing, okay, business isn't as important as social issues? It's like, no, selling chips for you is the most important. So why are we just believing companies when they do this stuff?
I think that's a lapse of critical thinking, to be completely honest. I think it's just our cultural, it's not that we have an inability to analyze these companies and their initiatives. It's the fact that we just take them at face value and assume that they're doing what they're telling us they're doing. Just like with our politicians, we just assume that they have the best interest of the people at heart. And all they have to do is walk on with a campaign about, I'm for the workers, and have no plan whatsoever. And people just say, oh, this guy's for the workers. This guy is not for the workers. But they all say they're for the workers. Every party in Canada is going to tell you the exact same thing about income disparity, and not one of them have a plan to do anything about it. They might say they have a plan, but there's no detail whatsoever. They're just like, we're going to make it better. We're going to fix it. We're going to end that. We're going to stop that. We're going to cure that. They never actually say, here's the process and implementation steps to actually get something done, because they don't have to. The social psychology is we're just accepting of whatever we see on TV. Because for so many years, there was news and there was documentaries, and they just didn't lead us astray. And then suddenly we found out they did. So Manufacturing Consent by Noam Chomsky, who just did a live speech yesterday, which is phenomenal, from the McMaster University, I think.
Yeah.
But
that is also
our readiness to accept whatever is given to us, whatever is shown and projected to us. I think that also influences and encourages us to be more deceptive in the way that we project ourselves. Do you know what I mean?
We have to be more cynical because everyone's out to,
Well, consider this. Like, if a bank is going to advertise with a big chair and say, like, oh, comfy banking lives here, there should be some sort of stipulation somewhere. I'm not saying it has to be in law or whatever, but like, just mentally, we should be making a note, like, well, what about that fraud that they just got convicted of and paid fines for last year?
Well,
like, it should be part of our cognitive function when we're looking at something, just to think, hey, what else have they done? You know what I mean? But it's not. We just take what the first thing we see and say, hey, that's believable.
Well, like, one thing I do, and a lot of this manufacturing consent, that's definitely, like, Chomsky got that a lot from Walter Lippmann. I'm just from his book Public Opinion. This is chapter 15 here. Definitely read that book. He talks about the First World War as if it was, the coronavirus pandemic. Like, it's the way the media works hasn't changed at all. So what you end up getting is people end up distrusting. Like, if you start thinking critically, you end up, it's easy to get cynical. And like, for one, I start to mistrust all ads. Like, someone puts an ad in front of me and I know that they're trying to, one, insult me. But at the same time, they are assuming I'm one thing, telling me that this is what I want, trying to get their name in their head. And it doesn't matter who it is. Now, if someone advertises to me, I get this negative reaction towards it. And I have this very anti-corporate streak down on me that I've had for quite a while. But I find that a lot of the optics that companies portray to me is just unreasonably insulting to a massive degree. Like, you get, there's videos where they just are, where they think that they're gonna fool you, or like, look, here's what you need, here's what you want, like this, like that, and I'm just like, no, go away. But they'll present you, like me, people like that they're doing as oafish, or like all the men in all advertisements, regardless of race, are dumb, and like, oh, look, laugh at yourself, now buy our product. off. But
like, watch football commercials. If you watch football for 5 seconds, there's a commercial every 5 seconds. It's painful to watch football if you hate commercials like I do. But if football commercials are just, they're loud, they're dumb, they're trying to make people laugh, and they're over the top, and I've got nothing against them on principle. But what bothers me about them is they're catering to an audience of degenerate or less educated people. Rather than saying, like, you can be something great or do something great with your life or be, you know, without having some type of inspirational theme or something to it, certain types of commercials for certain types of audiences, they encourage the cyclical digression of people's thought patterns in the way they present their products. Mm-hmm. So another way of putting that is like when they're advertising food to people, they never advertise the nutritional content, but they constantly say things like fresh tasting, fresh looking, last longer. You know what I mean? Like they use
fresh.
They use ambiguous words that mean nothing to trick people or deceive people into thinking something like a bag salad is the same as lettuce from a head of lettuce, when it's just like patently not.
Well, they use the word organic, which is a chemistry term, or they use the word natural, which is like literally everything that happens in nature. Is natural. And
even
like
synthesized things are nature. They are molecules.
Space is different. No, literally the entire universe, as far as we can tell, is natural.
Until you invent a new law of physics, it's natural.
Yeah. If something gets metaphysically like materializes right in front of me unnaturally from some like eldritch god, that thing will be unnatural to me, and I will probably shy away from it.
Those are the types of progressions or projections that I really, really hate. That's the fake stuff that I really want people to stop doing. Because if I'm selling a product, I don't need to say that mine's the best in the world or whatever. I could just say, hey, I'm available and I have this type of culture at my company and we produce this quality of work. If your product is actually valuable and like what you're doing as a business is productive work, you should be able to just tell people that your business exists, and that should generate customers and revenue. You shouldn't have to lie and deceive people and make them dumber in the process of gaining their patronage.
Well, like
that doesn't help anyone.
And this doesn't go to say that marketing is unimportant. Like, yes, you should have your product stand on the validity of this product, but you need people to actually know your product exists. And there's a lot of people out there. So like you do have to get word out there, and like, okay, we're definitely failing at this on this channel, but don't worry about it.
But we're not advertising very hard. So.
No, we're not doing very hard, but this is kind of the thing's fun in itself. So definitely word of mouth helps. Share, like, and subscribe.
Nudge.
Yeah. So, but
oh, sorry.
With what's happening is you do need to get your word out there, but if you get by any means necessary, I guess, but if you don't do by any means necessary, then you're this. But you see something like Apple where they make enough money that they just straight up lie to you, and like they don't even care. They're like, we'll make more money by lying than we will settling the lawsuit. And it's just, that's some evil BS.
Apple's the worst for it. Like they'll show people dancing around with their iPods and stuff, and they made this huge craze about MP3 players, and all they did was prevent people from like moving their own libraries, from changing the metadata on their own MP3 files. They tell you how many times you can burn a CD. Like everything about what Apple did was not customer focused. And then when your thing breaks because they have a $3 power converter part or a VRM module or something connecting from the battery to the motherboard, and instead of paying $2.30 for it, they want to charge you $400 plus send it away so you're without your computer. And then they try and upsell you a new computer just because a $3 part doesn't work. Like you can check out Louis Rossman's channel. He's got hundreds of videos about how Apple's been deceiving its customers and its repair and stuff like that.
That's a whole nother.
But and we talked about this in the EULAs, but I guess what I'm getting at is getting back to the impressions and the projection thing. The impression that Apple customers have is that Apple is a good company for them. Look, and it's just patently false.
Right. It's like, hello, fellow children. I am the cool kid on the block. Get an Apple computer. And like, you see all the students at university who are like not haven't gotten to the age of reason yet, and they all got their Apple because they told that they need an Apple notebook in every class.
Yeah, as if
and I'm just sitting there with
make them smarter.
Yeah, I'm just sitting there like, yes, having access to the internet does make you smarter, but
But
having
Linux
access
works just as well on a 4-year-old laptop or an 8-year-old.
or like pencil and paper. It's a lecture. You need to take notes. You don't need to, if the thing is that if you're actually using, again, the medium as a message, if you're actually going to bring a laptop and use the laptop as best it could in a lecture, you'd be recording that lecture, but then you'd be missing the point of that lecture. The point of the lecture is to get what's in the professor's head and put it in your head, or at least on your paper, so that when you remember it, you can be like, okay, so you need to pay it. So you need to do two things. Taking notes is an exercise in encoding stuff into your brain. It isn't, oh, I'm going to have this for later so I can have the answers. No, he's giving you the answers right now in class. That's why you're there.
The activity of rewording it and putting it on paper is the process that's going to help you remember it. It's not that you'll go back to the thing and read the note and then remember it. It's the fact that you wrote it down, period. Whether you look at it again or not, that helps you remember things.
Certain subjects, a computer might be more useful, like in a coding class.
Absolutely.
Like, hold on, I've got to write the code down like verbatim with a pencil. That's
or if you're learning a new concept, you want to tug and tweak and see what the limitations of it are before it throws an error. You can just quickly do it like, can I do this? Can I do this? Without stopping the class and asking them. And then the teacher being, I'm not sure. I have to go try it. Yeah. Like having a computer in a comp sci lecture is super useful.
Yeah. History lecture, maybe not so much. But the thing
when it comes to like brands or your clothes or your makeup or your music styles and things like that, like the way people are behaving is as if these projections accurately change their lives. And this like my Apple computer or my MacBook will help me be a better student. No, it won't. Any computer would help you be a better student in the exact same way.
I generally will wear stuff, and I'll like intentionally not wear things or buy things with the name on the t-shirt. I don't want any branding, because the thing is that I'm not Nike. It's like, well, I like it, blah, blah, blah. It's like, yeah, but you're doing free advertising. Like you have to pay to advertise. And so you're just giving it to them for free because Nike or some bullshit, or Volcom, who literally is just there as a marketing brand. They're literally nothing but a brand. That's it. That's all they do. And then what? Well, I guess they provide clothes, but no, that's not the point of their company. And so what you end up doing is that when you're doing this, and this is kind of bringing the two parts of our discussion together, is that when you put a brand on yourself, you are surrendering your own projection into the real world of who you are in favor of symbols made up by another. Now, okay, we're all using symbols that are made up from another. I'm using a language that's historically made. I'm using clothes that were made up. But like the way I wear them, I'm not literally projecting a symbol out to it. I'm not wearing, it's the same thing that happens when you go to work and you put on the Canadian Tire shirt. You are now Canadian Tire. You are not you. When you put on the Starbucks apron, you are Starbucks. Your individuality doesn't matter as much as the brand. And when you take that out into the real world, when you wear a hat that says, I don't know, Nike, well, then you're associated with Nike. Deal with it. Or the Bay or the Gap. Those values, and you're saying essentially the values associated with this brand, with this symbol, are being branded onto me.
It's basically a promotion for slave labor and pollution. But they don't even think of that because that's too complicated, or it's too hard to think about the bad things. Like it
is, but like
they see the commercial and they say, I want to look like the buff dude in the commercial, so I'm going to wear my Nike shirt. And there's nothing wrong with people liking a brand and identifying with it, wearing it. But they should be cognizant of the projection.
You think of farmers with the Brass Pro Shop like thing, those Brass Pro Shop hats that some of the farmers I'll like to wear. And you know what? They sell stuff to farmers, and they're going to be wearing that hat. So I guess, yeah, if it does jive with who you are, I guess that's okay. But I'm very wary of it because, well, I've got a hat here. It's Canada hat. Okay, so why am I okay with this? well, if you saw my Canada episode, you say, I'm part of my identity is being Canadian. So I'm projecting part of myself with the hat, saying, okay, I am Canadian. Manchester United.
No, it's Liverpool.
Oh, Liverpool. I don't know soccer. I'm not a hockey fan. So, but you're branding yourself, and like you go to a hockey game, you wear your team's thing. You're part of the group. You're jiving with everyone in it. But the thing is, you can take it off.
Exactly.
You get home, you take it off.
And to me, where the problem lies is when people are so attached to the image that they can't do things or function normally. So it's not the fact that they're picking and choosing a brand. Like, I'll pick AMD over Intel any day just because I know the company that Intel is and I know the company that AMD is, and I'd rather support AMD. Not to mention they have better products now, but even when they didn't, I supported AMD first. But
yeah, and it could change. All of a sudden, IBM could come out of nowhere and become like the best, most ethical company on the planet. Be like, never saw that coming.
but to me, the brand just sort of differentiates the process and the business culture or whatever, what I want to support. The brand itself doesn't make me more popular or feel more,
well, that's the conceit.
Like fulfilled or whatever. Like the projection itself, I'm not seeking attention by the brands that I'm picking. And some people are. And that's what these commercials are trying to do. They're trying to engineer people's personalities into a brand so that they'll sell more crap. And that to me is destructive.
Well, it's like buying a car, or like when I go to the range, you know, you get people who are inclined to be like, oh, you fire a Glock? Oh, it's so dumb. I hate Glocks. And it's just everyone like who's normal at the range will be like, yeah, okay, what's wrong with a Glock? Like, you can get a SIG or a Walther or a CZ. It doesn't actually say anything about your thing, or like what car you drive. Do you drive a Nissan or a Toyota? Like, these don't actually say anything. You can take the decals off. And because to me, my Nissan Sentra is a car, and I could take
that's a
off
luxury car.
I could take off the Nissan decals and put on a Toyota decals, and I wouldn't care. Because the brand doesn't say anything about myself. But if the brand starts saying something like, you know, Nissan stands with the farmers of, you know, southern Zimbabwe, I'm making this up, southern Zimbabwe in their fight against the locust hordes of Anglox Rook. And so, you know, we need to show solidarity with them. So buying a Nissan is a fight against the locust lords or something. Now, I'm making this up, but we see this every single day. You know, banking with TD is progressive banking, because we believe that gay people have a right to exist. It's like, we know, we've known that for a while. Like, no one
there's
cares.
such a small minority of people who don't agree with gay rights. Like, it is such a tiny minority of the population that you're advertising as if that it's some
they are loud
big revolution.
But the thing is that they're the weirdos. Like, they're the ones outside who don't like, personal freedoms are important. That's why we don't persecute gays anymore. Like, even to call them the gays sounds weird. They're just people
the gays.
Like, the gays. No.
The straights, the whites.
Yeah, it's just like, even thinking like that doesn't make much sense anymore, because we're just kind of like,
it's destructive because it sort of feeds itself. Like, that's
so when someone does think like that, so when you virtue signal as a company that hard, like, I keep thinking of that Pepsi ad where they were like, you know, this hot chick brings Pepsi to a protest, and Pepsi is the thing that everyone gets around, and look, we're pro, you know, Black Lives Matter, and we're pro protests, and we're pro apparently burning down the city. But what happened? Their
other ad campaigns are like, be young for life, drink Pepsi.
Yeah, it's like,
Coke is for old people.
Yeah. Be young for life, have diabetes for life. No, don't like. And so it's a lie. And so when you're allowed to like things, but when those things start to be what they are.
When Pepsi starts buying up like people's fresh water supply, and then you have entire states that have no access to clean water except through PepsiCo. Like, that's a social problem where people are getting lead poisoning and their lives are being ruined and their health is like deteriorating rapidly because of Pepsi's ownership of freshwater lakes. Like, that type of thing is so destructive. And it's like, we don't even blink when we see a commercial about, hey, stay young forever and drink Pepsi. We don't even consider the fact that they're starving people out of water in their home country.
Yeah.
That's insane.
That's a, oh geez, that's a tragedy, but no, but it is horrible. But it's the same purpose as, like, of this conversation,
laundering money for all these drug dealers, or like Wells Fargo committing fraud and adding all of these financial instruments to charge all these accounts so that their share prices go up because they're getting subscriber numbers and through fraud. But they're advertising as if they're customer friendly and they're offering services when all they're doing is defrauding people.
Right. And that's like, we can learn like these, okay, sorry, but for the purpose of this conversation, like these things happen. And then what happens is if you identify instead of, if you identify yourself externally like this, it's like, oh, I use this product, or I use that product, or I wear Adidas stuff, like the Russians do,
or Axe body spray.
Axe body spray is the best, or like I only buy BMW, blah blah blah. It's like, okay, you're identifying yourself with a product. Okay, you know what? I do prefer certain products over others. I'll grant that, but when you give your identification over externally to these things, you lose choice. Because when, it's like, I only drink Evian bottled water and then they screw over, or I only drink Pepsi and then, Pepsi does something nefarious, or I only use Max because Max are actually better for everything. It's like, okay, well, you're slotting yourself. You're limiting yourself by saying, well, this is me. And that's what you're doing when you put on a brand, literally putting on a brand. If you tattoo it in your neck or something, I've seen people do this, like, this is me. But what you're doing when you put on the jersey, you want your team to not only be good at the sport, you want them to be, you want the team to be good off the ice too. You want them to represent something good. And so when they don't, you can either be like, oh man, that sucks. Like they aren't what I thought they were, or they've become something different. But if you stay with them, you lose that choice of, it's not you identifying with something that they seem to represent at that moment. It's you just identifying with everyone. We have this problem with political parties. I'm a conservative. I'm a liberal. I'm an NDP voter. Well, guess what? They're going to change their platform 3 times in this next election. So you better be along for the ride or whatever. So you better identify yourself with what stuff you like and then vote like that. And this is what's the same thing that's happening when you follow, a car company. I like Volkswagens. Well, guess what Volkswagen just did? Well, it doesn't mean that their car isn't good. And now you've lost. Now you're doing damage control for someone that's not you. And like I said, like we were saying before, you don't have to be the one to fix other people's optical failings, other people's failing at the dance. And now when you put that jersey on of, I don't know, your bank or something stupid, Coca-Cola, something because you like their ad campaign, you're surrendering not only your identity, but your choice to these people because they aren't you. And so, yeah.
My favorite example of this too is ever since I think it was last year when they started doing all these independent journalist reports, like In Depth and Fifth Estate and whatever on Amazon, and the treatment of the employees at Amazon. So the drivers were so overworked and whipped that they started pissing in bottles in the car because they didn't have time to actually stop and ring a doorbell, and people were complaining about it. But the hilarious thing now is Amazon is pumping out all these commercials that are saying the exact opposite. They're like, I had no idea I was going to work at Amazon, but I'm here for life now because Amazon's such a great company to work for. It's flat out bullshit. There's video and there's testimonies and there's lawsuits and there's congressional hearings.
My favorite is you see out of nowhere, you'll see a ad for a company that has no right being advertising on TV. It's just at British Petroleum, we care about the environment. It's why is British Petroleum advertising on a
why
Simpsons
didn't you
episode
install a backup valve?
What did you do? Why is British Petroleum advertising on the TV? What did they do? British Petroleum. Oh, that's what they did. That's why they're advertising. They're doing damage control. And you see this constantly
But that type of thing should offend us, like personally, rather than just being like accepting the projection that they're giving us. We should be like adverse, like adamantly rejecting it outright, and then making them like lower on our scale. You know,
it's like anything the Chinese government says, like, oh, coronavirus came from the States. Actually, it's like, oh, did it? Tell me more. It's like, I don't believe anything you guys say.
Remember they had 0 cases this summer?
Yeah.
They were like, yeah, we eradicated COVID in like 2 months. No problem. It's done.
It's like, where did you bury the bodies? And it's insulting, like, to us, if like
it should be, but people believe it. That's what's really crippling to me.
I think a lot of that
adds so readily that they'll ignore outright fraud and criminal activity just because of an advertisement that they know is paid. They know that these companies paid to paint themselves in the best possible light, and they just don't care. They just assume it's still true because it's on TV. Like, that type of critical thinking, I think, is important when we're discussing first impressions and optics, because like you said, it goes into politics and government and party affiliations, and it goes into sports teams and stuff too, but that's like the healthy version. The sports team, because you can take off your jersey or walk out of the stadium if they're having a terrible game, and you can show them your dissatisfaction, and they will train harder and they will play harder the next time they come out.
I think one of the things about sports jerseys and sports in general that I find very actually healthy, it's probably one of the most healthy things our
the fickle fandom.
Well, you can be a fickle fandom. You can have more than one favorite team. It's like last year and this was I'm in trouble for this one, but whatever. I'll throw myself under the bus.
Oh, it's been about an hour since you've said something offensive, so you're good.
This one's going to be, but like, I remember the Canadians beat the Winnipeg Jets. The Winnipeg Jets are my team. I lived in Winnipeg forever. That's the one that I cheer for. But then they were beaten by the Canadians, and the Canadians went to the Stanley Cup Finals against all odds. And I was just like, they beat my team. Well, I guess I'm cheering for the Canadians now, and I didn't have any loyalty. It wasn't like it had any effect. But one of the things that sports does well is that we're able to practice all those stupid tribal behaviors in a very safe manner, because those tribal behaviors lead to massive wars. And so instead of doing that, we stick those guys that would be doing all those massive wars in uniforms, and we get them to play relatively peaceful, blood sports. And yes, hockey does need to be violent. I will die on that
that's sort of the point of it.
And so
give them a stick, but don't hit them with the stick.
You can hit them with your butt. I'm kind of against hitting them with the sticks, but like hitting them with your butt, like that's part of
that's what I mean. They give them all sticks, but then they say you can't slash or cross check people. Like, you're really, really making this super passionate aggression game harder to play when you can't hit somebody with the weapon that's in your hand. You have to bump them.
All right, so today we're going to learn new piece of equipment.
Yeah.
It's the phone. Call your mom when they hit you. No, but what happens is...
But the interesting thing about it is, like you said, people will just abandon temporarily. They'll abandon their loyalties.
The controversial part is that someone in my family very close to me, when the Jets lost their... when they got kicked out of the playoffs, someone was like, oh, I hate the Canadians. They're the worst. Oh, I can't stand them. Like, how dare they beat my team? It's like, geez, like, I think there's something else going on in your life that makes it so that you, like, why are you so loyal that to the detriment of everything else? And I think that sentiment is a part of that problem, that loyalty to something that isn't you.
Yeah, and that defensiveness they get from it too, right?
Yeah.
When they get defensive of their brand as if it's a personal assault on themselves.
Yeah, and I like, oh, Nike sucks. It's like, why would you say that? Slave labor. It's like, well, actually, they do a lot to blah, 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 blah. They actually give those people jobs. It's like, if you didn't build those Mikleadoras, they probably create their own jobs. I don't know. That's none of my business though. But like, so
if you didn't enable them like all over the world in all these other areas, like the UN and through what do you call it?
So I can
Olympic committees, like all that stuff.
Say why I don't like these brands. And somebody else might like, if someone comes up to me and says like, oh, I really like Nike, and you'd be like, well, why? They, you know, like blah, blah, blah. And I'll be like, they just fit me better. And I'll be like, that's actually a good answer.
But here's the thing. If I'm wearing a Nike shirt and you're railing on Nike, that shouldn't be personally offensive to me.
No.
And that's what people do. They get personally offended. If I start saying like Gucci and Prada are stupid things to buy and somebody's wearing or carrying a Gucci or Prada handbag, they'll be like, and immediately they'll get defensive, right? But it's just an accessory. Like your car is just a car. You know, oh, Nissans are garbage. And you're like, actually, I love Nissans, and who cares? Like, it shouldn't personally offend people, but it's because they get so attached to these brands. And the only reason they get so attached to these brands is the commercials and the advertising. And they're using psychologists to create advertisements to inject this type of defensiveness in people on purpose.
I think on some level, though, it's because on some level, though, it's not an unhealthy thing. It's going to sound weird, but we want the external to reflect the internal to some extent. Like, does this hat reflect, like, do I like the way I look in this hat? Yeah. Do I like the way I look in this hat? Does this show the optic I want? And then you say, well, I like, you know, does this car represent the kind of car I'd have? And like, personally, I'd say, you know, if I had to be asked, like, is there a car out there right now that would reflect the way I want? Like what I want it to do, but also reflect kind of the persona, you know, reflect this is what I'm like inside. What kind of aesthetic would reflect that? And it's not the brand itself. It's like, you know, aesthetic. I kind of like Jeeps, but I also don't like all these bulgy cars the way they are now. I like the more utilitarian looking stuff. And I think that would reflect kind of what's the inside. But like, so you want a Jeep? It's like, yeah, but I wouldn't be sold on a Jeep. And so the brand loyalty kind of comes almost naturally when out of that. You want, you know, like I've got wooden shelves. I could have laminate shelves, but I like the wood texture because I think it just jives with the way I want my stuff to look. So I buy brown slacks because I think you want all this is examples of just me trying to match my things that I have power over externally to the way I perceive myself in essence internally. So I'm trying to bring the internal out. Now, we've been talking ad nauseum of, you know, people ascribing their internal stuff and just letting stuff, you know, be plopped in by brands. But then what you were to mention there was that we're letting those brands actually tell us what we should be inside and tell us what we should feel and how we should see ourselves because they want to evoke a certain mentality. And they're playing on, I think, a very real necessity. You want the external to reflect the internal. You want your house to be beautiful. You want your car that you're driving not to be rusty. Well, why? Because I don't feel rusty on the inside. And so, you know, or maybe you want a beater because I just like that, like, you know, that
don't
rough,
have to worry about it.
Mad Max aesthetic. Like, I can respect that. If just like he comes up with like a and it just looks like something out of Mad Max, I'm like, dude, that's actually cool.
My buddy Fingers had a safety mobile, the car that couldn't be safetied. Safety mobile.
I knew a guy who would he was proud of his car that he had to start with a screwdriver. It's just, yeah, we rigged this up. It's great. I'm like, dude, that's awesome.
But I mean, I guess it says something about our age, but that used to be super common back in the 90s too. Everybody had a beater car.
Yeah, because
cars used to last so long that you just kept them even when you bought a new one.
Well, and they were a little less ubiquitous too. So you can't afford a car every year. Like, we did become a bit richer after the 50s and 60s.
No, we just got financing for cars now. The only thing that's different is the access to credit for vehicles.
Yeah.
Like
cars, like building cars is definitely, like, it is cheaper to build a car now than it was in the 50s and 60s because we use a lot less steel for one, and steel is very expensive to work with, and they are actually safer, but
they're leaps and bounds safer.
Yeah, but that's not the topic of conversation.
No.
So what
in getting back, I think what's actually harmful and detrimental to us isn't necessarily the brand recognition or that people ascribe certain brands to to speak about, to communicate from their inside out. What I think is harmful, though, is the psychology of branding. The way that brands get so ingrained in us that we get personally offended when the brand is denigrated. And that to me is harmful, because the brand isn't a real thing. It's not a living being. It doesn't have morals or aspirations or goals or dreams. So if people want to project themselves as being good people, I want to stress that all they have to do is actually be good people. Stop trying to look like a woke person, and stop trying to look like an intellectual, and stop trying to look like you're socially conscious and you're buying expensive stuff so that you can, feed the Polynesians, and you know what I mean? Like whatever stupid green idea they try and throw with a product, cast it aside and be like, have these people been fined for anything like corruption lately, or, slave labor? Have there been suicide nets put up in their factories?
Well, not even
things
that,
like that should actually matter as much as the brand advertisement does.
But it's not even what the company does in their spare time if they're nefarious. Because we can quote scandals ad nauseum, but what about products that you just don't need? Like stuff
dollar store products.
Yeah, I just need this, or the psychology is telling you that you need to have something new, or you need to have something don't use it until it's dead. Just get a new one and it'll be more effective. It's whatever. I'm so critical and cynical about advertisements that if you try and advertise something to me, I'll just be like, no, I'll be anti what's ever in my face for a couple minutes. The YouTube ads, I'm sorry, you have the opposite.
You're not effective at all. YouTube ads are so useless.
I will think that, I need to go to Canadian Tire and get some stuff to do an oil change in my car. And then I'll be watching a video and be like, come to Canadian Tire. I'll be like, I'll do it tomorrow. Yeah. I've literally done that.
No, me too.
I need to actually go to Canadian Tire. I really do. But
this is not a paid promotion.
No, this is not a paid promotion. But it
affects people.
Told we need we need to be wearing clothes like this. Why can't you decide what kind of clothes you need to wear? Everyone said I want to wear this clothes. I want to have this thing and it looks like this. But then you ask people what they actually want to wear. It's you see those memes where it's what women think men want to wear and what men really want to wear. It's just a suit of armor, an old suit, and just dapper as heck. It's men and women want to wear
comfortable clothes.
But also they want to be stylish. They want to look good because they look good, not because, oh wow, that's the new something dress. No, you see a girl. But
that to me is the other problem: wearing clothes that make you look thinner, right? I've seen so many chicks in the last 20 years wearing spandex to accentuate their skinny legs and their barrel bodies. I don't get it. If you want to look more attractive and you have an idea of what's attractive, just change your body shape. Exercise and eat properly and be healthy.
That takes discipline though. But
yeah,
you can just do it easy with
I would rather somebody be honest in their sloth.
To be fair, corsets, the history of corsets is definitely maligned. Most people wore them because they were really good for your back. And they're actually making a bit of a comeback because one, they do slim you down and hold everything together, which does make you look good. And
yeah, I prefer that. I'd rather a bigger girl who's just honest.
No. There is that point where you're lying, but it pulls everything together. Plus, if you're standing all day, it'll save you a lot of pain and problems later on.
But it'll give you organ problems anyways.
The thing is that the women who were doing that were making the choice to just wrench it in. And that was their choice because they wanted to be seen like that. It's not the men were forcing them to do that. It's no, they were doing it to eschew an aesthetic and do the dance that was happening at their time. And men do stupid shit too all the time. We
comb overs, baby. Look how many guys have comb overs.
Just shave. I'm sorry. I feel
if you're bald, you're just bald.
I'm not allowed to talk here because I have the thickest hair on the planet. But just shave it. I'm sorry. I don't have that problem.
Or just show it. You know what I mean? If I don't know why people have to be so uptight about their bodies. If your body's imperfect, everybody is imperfect. It's okay. to go outside and be seen with an imperfect body. It's not the end of the world to have a role.
But if you go out and complain, oh man, I'm fat. Well, it's like, I have no sympathy. I have like absolutely none. Like, yeah, it sounds like something you could deal with. Well, actually, I eat like 300 calories a day and it just, everything stays in me. It's like, oh, that sounds like a doctor problem then. I have a bit of sympathy.
Again, if we're talking about medical conditions, then that's sort of apropos. But if somebody's just bringing it up out of nowhere, or they're subscribing to a brand or something because it's slimming, like that to me shows an absence of maturity of thought. Mm-hmm. To wear something because it makes you look what you're not, to me, is just like, oh, so you're aware that you're lying to the world and you're okay with that. That's the projection you're giving me, is that you think that you're clever enough to hide a birthmark with cover up. Like, ooh, so clever, you put paint on a dark spot. Like, that's.
But at the same time though, like wearing clothes, like to some extent everything we do is to some extent do that. Like if I shave, if I'm growing my beard out when I could shave, which one is the real one? If I decide to wear
those are both real.
Yeah, but if I decide to wear a couple extra layers to, pad out my physique a bit, is that lying?
Well, okay, like what if you stuffed a sock in your pants to make your dick look like a bulge?
Yeah, okay, that's a line. That's
no different from padding your bra to make your boobs look bigger.
Right, but if you it's circumstantial. Yeah, okay. I have met girls like that. They're like, no, this is not a thing. I wear a thick bra for a reason.
Yeah, and I'm not saying those people. I'm saying specifically the people who are trying to make their bodies look different by. I'm not against the style, and I'm not against the brand or anything, but to wear yoga pants just because they make your ass look less saggy, to me, is an admission of dishonesty. Right. If you really don't want your ass to be saggy, exercise. And if you don't want to exercise, then just be honest about your non-exercising.
Now,
like nobody has to have a perfect ass. It's not a big deal. In defense of
yoga pants, I am told that they are extremely comfortable. I'm told that they are like the maximum comfort.
But the reason they're popular is the feeling that they get from having a nicer looking ass than they otherwise would have. And that's not just me. That's actually like the statistical research answers.
I think I'm going to have to land down on the side of that's okay circumstantially.
All things are okay circumstantially.
Yes. But no, I'm saying like if a girl like doesn't actually care, but says, man, when I wear these, it makes my ass look great. There's nothing wrong with that to me.
Right.
But when she's
to subscribe to a brand because that brand makes your bum look better, or to get a bra that specifically pushes up your boobs to make your cleavage look bigger. Well, on the one hand, I'm torn. On the one hand, I don't care what you want to do to your body and project yourself. That's fine. But if you're subscribing to something specifically to be dishonest about like material reality, your physical body, to me, that's what it's saying about you. So you're trying to project, I have nice boobs, I have a nice ass. But what you're actually projecting in my interpretation is I'm shallow.
So, but now this comes back to the first point really well, is that of vanity. And so I still think vanity is a worthwhile pursuit, but it's a dangerous one because I do that. I will buy pants that make my butt look good, just straight up, because
but if you have a choice
wife
between one that does and one that doesn't, obviously you're going to pick the one that looks better. Yeah. So there's nothing wrong with that.
But I'm not going to get a padded butt like pants or padded things or this or that. But
to suggest that no other pant could do that because you're so ingrained in that brand, that's the issue.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is that emotional attachment to a product for something that is immaterial and not real, that is harmful to people.
Yeah. Well, or now for me, a lot of that comes from like, you get a lot of that with like trinkets too. You get little like knickknacks that people think they need, or a useless product that doesn't actually add anything to their life. Everyone's got these. There's so many of these in society that you can't not get one. Someone will just give you one as a matter of course. I can think of a couple of
Christmas mugs.
Yeah. How many mugs do people need? I have way too many mugs, like way too many. And like, I need like 1 mug. 2 because I live with someone else.
I need about 6 because I do dishes once every 3 or 4 days. So.
Or you lose one.
But that's like coffee
you don't
and
need
tea
12
and everything.
And like, yeah, I don't need all this and all that. And it's like when they tell you that this is what success is, and it's just, I think actually that's probably the sentence that I was looking for, is that you as an individual have to decide what success is and what that success looks like based, yes, on other people, yes, based on what's expected of you in society, based, yes, on historical and based on biology and all that stuff. But you get to decide ultimately what success looks like for you. And I think what I'm trying to get down to at the base of it is you have to be able to make that decision. And if you're not, well, then you're essentially rolling the dice saying, well, I hope that this gets me thing. But if you actually make the choice yourself, you can work towards whatever success you decide to choose. And whatever that looks like optically, is important because, you will be doing a dance, and the dance that gets you there will be the successful dance. So when you choose to be a bit vain, well, you're actually not choosing to, be self-centered. Like self-centered, we all say like, oh, don't be self-centered, be selfless, blah, 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 blah. And what they're saying is give me stuff from you. It's like, no, go away. I'll give stuff as a gift in appreciation, but I'm not going to give something as like, because, oh, I need it right now. You need to give to me because don't be self-centered. No, I'm going to be vain to a point because this is what I'm working towards. And I want to look clean. I want to be clean because it's healthy. I like the way I look a certain way. I feel comfort because I've chosen that, I like looking like this. Vanity. How dare you be self-centered? It's like, cause it's myself and I have to center on it in order to get it right. And that's it. And if I want to interact and actually do have an effect on other people, then I have to be self-centered to some extent. I have to care about what I look like. I have to care about what other people think of me.
I think that's sort of building a straw man though, because nobody's ever saying don't be vain or self-centered when it comes to personal hygiene. The only times people ever bring those up, and it's like, I'm in a crisis, I need your help right now. And you're like, no, I have to shave first. Like, I'm dying, my leg's bleeding out.
Yeah,
no, I have to shave first.
But like,
that's self-centered.
What I'm saying is like, vanity. If I, like, I'm saying as a whole, not in like certain like if someone's leg is broken, I'm not going to care about like, oh, like, what about my shirt? What about my fancy shirt?
You vain or self-centered though, is what I'm saying.
But to be, whenever I can, be properly groomed, you get some people being like, oh, look at you being all fancy. It's like, yeah, look at me being all fancy.
But to me, that's a health thing. That's like, even for mental health, you want to be presentable and take care of yourself because showing self-care is a way of showing appreciation to yourself. Mm-hmm. Like it's a self-esteem, it's a body thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Not just a physical health thing, it's a mental health thing.
Yeah. And well, I mentioned like physical grooming as an example, but no, It definitely is a mental thing because and this goes into exactly what I was saying, because it's all one construct. What you want, and this is, I don't even know who said this. I can't remember. It's probably like 60 people over the course of human history. You have to align yourself with, totally. Maybe it's Watts. I can't remember. Campbell. Who knows? Essentially integrate everything into itself. You are one giant unit and every piece of yourself needs to be integrated. The way you visualize yourself optically and to others does matter because it's all connected to your action, to your visual appearance, to like what you're doing. And it's not like, you don't have to like subtly, like a psychopath, tailor everything to get the best maximum thing out of every situation, like a Fallout game or some, psychopath at a bar trying to get laid. It's literally like, this is me. And what's me is indicative of who I am on the inside as well as on the outside. They are in unison. And so this is one unity that is me. And it's not
to contrast that though, in keeping with the example of saying like my leg's cut off and I'm bleeding out, I need your help right now. No, I can't. I need to put makeup on first, right?
Well,
what people are doing, what I'm suggesting people are doing is they're ignoring the harms caused by Pepsi owning the fresh water in Michigan, and they're still buying that brand. So their vanity has taken priority to literal human suffering. Or Nikes with their sweatshops, or Apple with Foxconn, and their iPhone makers, where people were jumping out of the factories trying to kill themselves.
Well, yeah, and I'm not arguing that. I'm actually like that,
what I'm saying.
So what I'm saying,
I know you're not arguing it. I'm elaborating on what you're saying, because you're talking about a one extreme that everybody agrees with.
Well, I'm not even talking about
that's not vanity.
Like I'm not talking about just like personal vanity like this. I'm talking about like everything, like what you choose to drive, what you think. I'm not saying like in one circumstance. I'm saying in all circumstances is what it's like.
And what I'm saying, the vanity is not
the type of person that I am would be the person that says, I've got a nice shirt on. But if someone's under a car, that shirt, I don't care if it gets ripped, because the type of guy, like, I don't care about optics when somebody's under a car. Like, oh, my shirt got ripped. It's like, yeah, but you're alive. I'm the type of guy who does the dance differently at different times. And if that, if it's an emergency, I guess I'm going into this burning building in a suit. Oh, well. And I don't and if you aren't jiving, in and out, you'll be like you say, you'll be more inclined to not jump into that burning building, in the suit. Well, my suit, you could try and take some of that suit off as you're running in, because it's just like, my wife gave me this and I go, but well,
I think what's important is recognizing when we're doing this before we end up in that situation.
Yes.
So before we realize, oh my God, why am I so worried about my shoes getting wet when I have to save this person from drowning? That's not the time to be self-aware. You should be self-aware before that, realizing that, hey, I'm going out and buying these nice shoes and I like these shoes and I'm wearing them because they're my favorite shoes. And then, oh my God, someone's there, throw them out without thinking. Like, you want to not have that dilemma come up at the worst possible time. And the way to do that is to think ahead of time with our purchases. So as you're saying, I've heard some people say, like, I'll never drive that brand of car or whatever. And to me, I'm like,
death trap.
Coming from when we grew up, we were grateful to have any car. Just to have transportation and not take a bus in the winter. That was a fire.
That thing was a tank. It didn't have heat in the winter.
Yeah. And the windows worked. Like, you get to roll them up and down. And you got a
sunroof. Like, don't open the windows, they'll break. Why? Because you'll break the thing that ties the window. They're frozen. You got to wait till the car heats up in 20 minutes.
But I think people are in that crisis mode right now, where they will buy a Prada bag despite the harm it's causing because of the image that it projects, and that they value the image they're projecting with their Prada bag more than they value the lives that Prada bag is destroying.
Yeah,
I don't know Prada. I shouldn't say Prada because I don't know anything about.
You can just assume like something like there's a clothing store that my mom makes, not my mom, my wife makes fun of. This let's not think about that. Sometimes it's just a slip, but
sorry, I had to point that out.
My wife makes, every time we walk in the mall and there's like H&M, and she goes, that's suspiciously cheap. And it's just like, she calls it like the slave labor store, because everything, you get like a dress for like $15, and it's like, why is a dress $15? What did they have
it's overstocked from another season.
Yeah.
So it's trends that are making
they're always in that store. They're always that cheap. Yeah. And it's like, this helps our lower classes buy, more clothes and have more, options.
Reduces garbage too. Having people buy clothes that rich people don't want.
But no, this is new clothes. Like, it's not overstock. It's brand new clothes made by slave labor.
Overstock is brand new clothes. It's when you buy.
No, those are like outlet shops. Yeah. I'm not talking about an outlet store. I'm talking about like their front, like their normal front, are advertising all this cheap stuff. Now, when it's that cheap, you can probably assume that it's made by slaves in some like terrible country. Now, one thing you can do, I guess, is care about where it's made. Like, don't buy stuff made in China, period. It's hard, but anything's better than that at the moment. But at the same time, you can, like, it says made in Canada, you're probably going to pay, made in Canada or America, you're probably going to pay more. but you can be assured that the people were paid that were made it. So that's
not in the States though. They get a lot of prison labor, which is tantamount to slave labor.
But they don't have that much prison labor. They don't have enough prison labor that you'll see their stuff.
Oh yeah, they have an industrial complex in the States. They pay like what, $2 an hour or something to their inmates.
Yeah, I know they do that, but Citation needed big box stores are selling their stuff. It's the same with getting stuff from Europe, like made in the United Kingdom or made in like Germany or France.
Yeah, it's all Italy. Coming from Czech or Ukraine.
Yeah.
None of it's coming from England.
No, but like at the same time, I'll like when I'm buying a firearm, it's like I'm not going to buy something from Turkey. I'm probably going to buy the more expensive one from
Israel.
Italy. I might actually, but
great weapons. Not going to deny that.
Yeah, Tavers are expensive though, but I want one. So donate to my Patreon. I would. Anyway, so
that was sort of my final comment. Is just trying to extrapolate what we were getting at with the cartoonish examples and actually extending that into how we're actually applying our buying decisions and valuing our personal projection over human life. And it's not like some kind of hyperbole I'm throwing out there, like Pepsi's the example, Nike's the example,
a great example,
Apple is the example. Like there's tons of them. It's
Starbucks,
not just these companies.
Like, oh, we care about the environment. Then it's just like, do you know how many paper cups we don't recycle every day? It's like, it's insane.
And the mountains of clothes in garbage dumps.
Yeah.
Like because of cheap clothes from China, people just throw things away rather than like
those jerks. If you're one of these people, I unsubscribe because I'm going to say some bad stuff about you. Those people who like, I wear a different set of clothes every day. It's just like, smack.
Way to pollute the planet worse than anybody else.
Like those optics, what are you trying to say to me? Like, are you trying to say like, look, I'm rich, like me because I'm rich? Like, and I'm just trying to be me. I want people to look at me. And this is kind of where I'm coming down. This is my, I guess, final point, is that when I think about what I want people to see of me, I just want people to see me. I want them to look at me and be like, that's Jordan. I don't want people to say, that's a rich guy. That's this kind of guy. I just want them to be like, that's Jordan. He acts like Jordan. He looks like Jordan. That's all I want. And if they don't know me, I kind of want to get a first impression that's at least in line with what I know I am based on my own self-reflection. And if it's dishonest, I can tweak myself with, by seeing, oh man, people think I'm a cringy little guy. There must be something I'm doing wrong. Reevaluate and be like, oh yeah, that was really cringy. I can't believe I did that. And then become more adept, change myself for other people. No, what I'm doing is I'm becoming more adept at being myself with regard to other people. And so the biggest thing with that is honesty. You got to be hard on yourself, but not too hard.
Have fun with it.
Yeah, have fun with it. Go with the flow, but like try and make your own flow. It's just like dancing in public. You can use some of the moves that you learn from other people, but you can also make up a few of your own moves. And if one out of 10 of your dance moves works, cool. But generally, people will just be happy you're dancing.
Exactly.
So I think that's where I'm going to let it sit. And so thank you guys for watching.
You've been listening to Frivolous Gravitas. Myself, Christopher Driver, and my buddy.
You're my buddy.
Sorry, I thought you were going to chime in. I'm Jordan Roy.
No, I like that. It's cute. my buddy. All right. Thanks for watching, guys.
Have a good one.